I am Mohammad Zishan Abid, fellow member of ICAP, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan. Dear audience, today we are going to have a webinar, a very well and very much discussed topic, and that is AI. People have a belief that AI is a buzzword which we are being using, but that is not a reality. Now AI is being penetrating in the life of doctors, in the life of accountants, in the life of governance, and it is a much needed area that we should all understand how AI is impacting us. The topic for today's webinar is AI governance for finance and audit professionals. We are going to cover its principles, ethics, risks, and regulatory framework. This seminar is being arranged by the Northern Region Committee of the ICAP. Before we start, I request the host to please start with the Talawate Quran Pak.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Jazakallah, mashallah. Before we should start our session and detailing, I want to have our session chairman. Our session chairman is our chairman NRC, Mr. Anil Peter. Mr. Anil Peter has a well-reputed chartered accountant. He is a fellow member of the ICAP and a certified internal auditor. He has an experience of more than 2 decades. He worked in Pakistan and Middle East markets for the last 2 decades. Currently, he is working as a partner taxation in the KPMG. He has served in the NRC for the last term 2021 to 25 and also currently serving ICAP in the various committees. I request Mr. Neil Peter to please give us the opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Ishan Sab. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope I'm audible and I'm visible, and I understand. I think we are running a few minutes late, so I'll try to make it very quick. I think AI is something which we listen a lot these days, and a lot of students actually come to me. Even recently, a group of students was sitting and discussing something very seriously and asked them what was it. And they said, sir, we are thinking what will happen to us in future. Is our job is going to be present or not? What will we do in future in the presence of AI? So this is a discussion that is an ongoing one, and it is very relevant to everybody, but it is more relevant to the new generation because they think that in the next 5, 10, 15 years, the world is going to change. Finance, accounting, auditing is going to change, and no doubt it is going to change. But in what way? How does that see us fit into that picture? Finance professionals, auditors, accountants, and what can we do to remain relevant in the next 5, 10, 15 years? So that is a discussion which is evolving, and we are trying to bring these topics to you. We will keep on bringing these topics to you. And I also want to mention, I think one thing which is always requested from NRC is that there should be cost-free events. So this is it. There should be more technology focused. This is it. There should be more online events. This is it. So I would really want to thank you, Shakil Mia Saab, for taking out the time and for being the presenter, for Ahmed Suleiman for arranging and leading it, Zishan Abid Saab being always the light, the energy of the show. So thank you very much, all of you. Shakil Sab, one request, I think that the picture on the brochure is very young. You're a very experienced person. So I think we need to change the picture in the next one because that is from maybe a decade ago. So with that, I wish all of you a very great session. I'm sure you'll all enjoy it. It will be beneficial. We will wait for your feedback as well so that we can continue improving and organizing such events. Please also check the calendar of CPD events for NRC next week. It is going to be updated on the website. So that will give you an idea of the upcoming events up till December. It is not cast in stone. Events can be up and down and the dates can change, but it will give you a good idea of the things that are coming up. So with that, thank you so much. Pakistan Zindabad. Over to you, Zishan Saab and Shakil Saab.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Neil. Anil, the NRC and this platform always done a lot for the members, and we do hope so with the new NRC and under your leadership, we will have the same high flag attitude going on for the coming days. Let's move to our session without wasting a single minute. Let me introduce our speaker. Today, our speaker for this session is Mr. Shakil Emia. Mr. Shakil Emia is a founder and executive director of TechGov Intelligence. Mr. Shakil, he is a distinguished legal and the governance professional, and for the last 16 years doing a practice in UAE. He is advising to the various leading organizations on the regulatory compliance, enterprise risk management, cross-border legal frameworks. His expertise is towards the law, technology, and the governance, and he is enabling the organization to navigate the complex regulatory requirement with the confidence. Today, the topic he is going to cover that is span with the specifically of the artificial intelligence and the various aspects regarding its governance, usage by the finance professionals, usage by the audit professional will all be covered. So without further ado, I request the virtual podium to be handed over to our speaker for today, Mr. Shakil Emia. Sir, podium is yours. So you are muted.
Yeah, can you hear me? So yeah, I'm really thankful to ICAP today for just inviting me for this such a prestigious webinar and such a accomplished audience which is listening me. I'm thankful to Mr. Salman as well. So as you mentioned, that during the last 16 years while practicing in UAE and during the last 3 years, I'm focusing more on emerging technologies like fintech, AI, blockchain, Web3, and crypto, etc. And Dubai has provided me a great platform to have a better understanding of international legal regulations, which are actually being employed by UAE in a practical way. So today we are just going to talk about AI governance, especially with the reference to its risk and of course the international regulations. And we just need to understand the basic principles of AI, but with the special focus that how the auditors or the financial consultants can use AI in a much better way. So the very simple definition of AI governance is basically to use AI for the benefit of the people. So in other words, it should be an ethical AI or it should be responsible AI. It should never lose the public trust, and it should never harm to the basic rights of the people and their liberties. So this is the basic concept of AI governance. So AI governance, we all understand, as you mentioned earlier, that it is being adopted by the public sector and by the private sector, not only in Pakistan but across the world. And in the beginning of 2026, a lot of CEOs of the world, according to a report from KPMG, they are actually focusing and investing more on AI models and systems to improve their compatibility in the local and international market. AI come with a lot of benefits, like the most important benefit it's like its innovation and its velocity. But the most important concerns for the policymakers across the world at this point of time is that this velocity or speed or better performance should not be at the cost of the rights of the people or their comfort or their liberty. So this is a concern which is actually giving rise to have the adoption of AI governance at local and international levels. A lot of regulations have recently been evolved, and especially I would today give specific reference to the EU AI Act, European Union Artificial Intelligence Act, which is the first AI law in the world. And I've also give some kind of introductions to the GDPR as well, because AI always stands on data, and the GDPR or the General Data Protection Regulation is the international regulation by EU which protect and give all the regulatory frameworks to protect the data. So first, we're just going to talk about policy framework. So each and every foundation should have its own AI governance. So the AI governance policy should include accountability and governance structure. This is a one thing. Accountability means this is a very important and foundational concept which we need to understand. AI is not a natural human being, but we need to understand that there must be a person, the board, the AI officer, or the data protection officer, a true human being who should accept the responsibility, and then he can be accountable for any deeds or actions being taken on behalf of the AI. The second thing is risk based management. There are a lot of risks which are associated with AI. And I would like to quote here the EU AI Act of 2024. And according to Article number 5 of EU AI Act, the risk is classified into 5 categories. So there are some AIs which are prohibited AIs, means you cannot use that AI at any cost, which are against fundamental rights, rule of law, human health, human security, and democracy, and etc. the related aspects. So if AI is going to harm them, they are considered as per EU AI Act as the prohibited AI. So they cannot be used. The second category is high risk AI systems. So high risk AI systems are the systems which are allowed but which needs a lot of human intervention at, at each and every point of their life cycle. They are called high risk AI. The third category is like the normal AI or moderate AI systems, which needs human intervention but not at a higher level. And the last one is the least, the low risk AI system. So these are the 4 categories or the classification in AI system which needs to be taken into consideration, and we will be discussing a little bit later on this as well, because we're just talking about the basic principles of a policy or the AI governance policy. The other principle is relating to transparency and explainability standards. If there is no transparency, there is no justice, there is no AI. And if there is no explainability, there is no responsible AI or there is no ethical AI. And for the auditors or the financial consultant, it's really important to understand that if they cannot understand AI, they cannot do the audit. Or audit is always based on evidence, and evidence is based on transparency and clarity. So this is the first principle which must be taken into consideration by all the auditors, because their audit reports are always based on evidence, and evidence can only be collected if it is based on the principle of explainability and transparency, which we will be discussing little later. And the fourth principle is that all the AI governance principles of policies of the public or the private sector, they should align with global regulations like EU AI Act or like the GDPR, OECD principles of responsible AI, and UNESCO principles of ethical AI. They should always align with these international regulations. I'll also give you an example of the instructions or the guidelines given by the UAE Central Bank on 22nd of February 2026 to the all licensed financial institutions, that how they can use AI to protect the rights of the consumer. So means the AI governance policy should always align with local and international regulations. So this is the basic concept behind the policy framework. So now we are going to discuss about third principle is relating to accountability. So human responsibility in AI is really very important one. And we first of all need to understand what is the definition of ownership. Who's going to own the AI responsibility throughout the AI life cycle? So whatever the sector it is, it might be a government sector or the finance sector or like the other sectors, but there should be a responsibility which should come to a single person or a human being. So this is the first principle of accountability. The second is board and management oversight. In many cases, the boards and management of the companies, they are under the obligations to have the review of their AI policies so that they should be accountable before the consumer, the shareholders, the partners, and other actors of the organization. So the board management and board responsibility is very important. And normally boards are run by AI governance committee, ethical committees, the compliance officers, the legal advisors, and of course the auditor. So they should have their continuous reports to the board for the better understanding, so that the policy of the board should be based on the principle of accountability and transparency. The other principle is relating to clear responsibility for decisions and failures. So if a hospital is using the AI and the patient is died, who is responsible? The hospital, the doctor, or who is responsible? If a person is going to apply a loan in a bank and the loan is rejected, and the bank simply say the decision is made by the AI, but the AI, we cannot sue against the AI. So here become the importance of a person. There should be a natural person, either the bank manager or the concerned auditor or the compliance manager. So according to this principle, the responsibility should be very clear. And the other thing is audit and compliance accountability. We will be talking about audit trials and many other things in the time to come, and there should be a compliance accountability either through the compliance officer, and as I mentioned, that the AI should be in aligned with the local and international regulations. So the real principle here is that AI cannot be accountable, human must be. So the importance of human is really very important. Even now we are sitting in the age of agentic AI and even the quantum computing and many other things. But the principle which is very clear is the responsibility of the human in all the AI operations. Since the Article 1 of EU AI Act talk about the AI should always be human centric, okay, and at the same time the humans are responsible. So this is something relating to accountability which must be taken into consideration by all the boards and directors for establishing their AI governance policies. Okay, so I'm audible, everybody's okay with me, or there is some problem in voice? Everything is okay?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we are just going to discuss about risk classification. I just gave the introduction in the initial, discussion. Risk classification is really very important, and even if the auditors are going to have an AI audit or AI auditability, so it must be based. The first thing they should inquire about the from the institution or from the organization or the client, what is the structure of AI, what is the classification of AI. So we will take here a help of EU AI Act, and according to Article number 5 of EU AI Act, the AI risks are classified into 5 categories. The number one is the banned, which means you cannot use those kind of AI which is against human health, human security, law and order, governance, and human dignity. So they are the banned one. The second one is high risk categories, and especially in the high risk categories of AI or even the mid risk categories, the role of auditors come forward. So they first of all need to understand it very clearly. What is the risk classification? So if it comes from a health sector or from a finance sector, from the administration of justice, whatever, so we need to understand the basic structure of the AI module, on which principle the AI module is based. So the AI module, there should be a clear description again as per the response, as per the act of the EU AI Act. The deployer, when the model is in the design stage, or it is in the deployment stage, or it is being implemented, and even after the implementation, there should be a continuous monitoring system. So the auditor should require and should understand what is the exact description of the AI system which use the AI, training models and the AI decisions were given. So the risk classification is very important. The second and the third categories are, of course, not much important, but the high risk category, according to the EU AI Act, the auditors should understand very clearly each and every aspect of the AI module or AI system. And if there are some instructions or guidelines given by the AI developer regarding the strength of the AI system, its weaknesses, at what point of time the AI system can have some kind of a drifting, which is always possible. So the auditors need to understand all these things very clearly. So the key message here is high risk, stronger controls and regulation. So if the risk is higher, the role of auditor and its acumen become even more important. So this is mentioned in the EU AI Act 5, which clearly talk about prohibited AI systems. So sometime later today we have a scarcity of the time, but we will be discussing in detail more about the AI, classification and its systems and how the auditors can play their effective role. The next discussion is about human oversight. So human oversight, like there is a very categorized principle: human in loop, human on loop, and human out of the loop. So if there are AI systems which are concerned with the highest level of seriousness, and they are relating to the administration of the justice or the legal system or human health or human finance and etc., which are normally categorized as high risk AI system. If those are the system, then human should become in loop, and when the human is in the loop, it means very clear that the human can even override the AI decision. They can even monitor the AI decision, and even they have the right to disapprove or reject the AI decision. So this is really very important regarding the human oversight for the high risk AI classification as per the EU AI Act. So override and intervention capability, of course, based on the uh, risk of the system, the human being has the right to override or even, of course, make their intervention or reject the AI decision given by the AI model. Escalation procedures are there. We will be discussing in the next 18 points. If there is some, high risk alerts are there, they should be escalated to the boards at the beginning, and it should be documented with the clear technical documentation. It should be adopted by the board and the compliance committee, so that auditor at a second stage can come forward and they can take help from these risk-based technical documentation. And there should be the lineage of the data. Lineage means how the data was input, how it was output, and what are the between stages. So that should be taken into consideration by the board, and the system should be very clear and it should be put into the log, so that the auditors can check the system from A to Z to make the best audit reports for the protection of the legal and commercial interest of the stakeholders. The continuous supervision is another thing. Once the system or the AI model is deployed, so sometimes the organizations do understand that now it's everything is okay. So they are always focusing on innovation. The results are coming, and even as per the recent reports by the leading CEOs of the various companies of the world, they are very happy with the AI system, but they always talk about the velocity, about the speed. But the AI systems can show some kind of drifting at any point of time. So that must be taken into consideration, and it should go through the continuous supervision process by the board and the AI governance committees. So the key principle here, we do understand critical decisions must remain under the human control. Without human control, the AI is yet not completed. And these principles are very much clear in EU AI Act of 14, which talks about human oversight. So yeah, now we are coming on a very important aspect of AI governance, the principle which is called data governance or data. We all understand that AI is based on data, and if the data is poor, the AI decisions will be poor. And we should understand one thing which is very clear, that is called garbage in, garbage out. So if you are putting a garbage into a AI system, we will get a garbage out of it. You cannot expect something better. So the data is really something very important, and data is like a raw material in the cotton industry. So if the data and then the cotton becomes like a system, and the final clothes or dresses we get out of the textiles, this is called the AI system. So these are the three stages which must be taken into consideration. So the data is really very important. The data quality should always be amazing. The data should not be poor. It should be free of the error. It should be free of the bias. And for the auditors, even some of the audit organizations are perfectly doing this, that the auditing system they have already completed through the normal human intervention and etc. So they have taken that data, which is called historical data. They run that historical data as a training data with the AI system, and then they just check what is the outcome. So this is really a fair system category that must be taken into consideration by the auditor and the normal professionals in the organization. So data quality and accuracy is of an extreme importance for the best AI governance output. And data minimization, that is another principle which must be taken into consideration. So only the relevant data should be taken, because if you see from many statistical figures, the AI governance principle, the most important reservations or apprehension that come from data leakage, or the leakage of the privacy of the data, which is a huge a setback, and it is against the basic principles of the human fundamental rights. So the data minimization means we should always take that data which is very much relevant, and irrelevant data should always be discouraged, and that of course can be categorized to the different systems which come under the data governance category. Purpose limitation, I mean, the organizations which are using the of the which mentioned in article number 10 GDPR, the data minimization and purpose limitation. So they should be very clear, and that data should always be used for that purpose. And the violation of using that data for some other perspective may give rise to the violation, and not only the one, but there can be a categorized as per the EU AI Act, even the from $1 billion or 7% of the global revenue of the company. This is what has been given into the EU AI Act. So the data minimization, that's very important. And limitation, again, be limited to the extent of its use. That should always be taken into the consideration. Data lineage and ownership. Again, we should always be very clear about all the phases of the data being taken into the AI systems or AI modules, about the input of the data, what is the output of the data. It should always be taken under a strict review during this whole AI cycling process. And this is called the data lineage system. And there should be the ownership. I mean, each data should be owned, and data should not be without any ownership. And if there is any susceptibility or confusion, it should be clarified at the beginning, exactly at the time of the designing, before deployment, or even before the AI model or systems go into the market and go for practical execution. So in this connection, data lineage and ownership is very important. So what we understand from this is the key message: reliable data drives reliable AI. So if you want responsible AI, the ethical, the important data is extremely important. And of course, the GDPR, we will be discussing it even sometime later on, the different provisions of the General Data Protection Regulation, that harsh they provide on the data protection, data governance, includes the cyber attacks and many other things. So for the data governance, The auditors need to understand what is the data governance structure of the concerned company, and what is the data governance policy, what are the reports given by the data control officers, and what are the sources of the data, what source of training of that data which is being used to produce the AI systems. So data governance is really something very important that needs to be taken into consideration to have an excellent AI governance policies for the public and private sector. Okay. Okay, so let me just take a water. So now we are going to discuss about model transparency. So the model transparency is really something very important, and this is about the model means an AI model or AI system which is actually providing the AI decisions, and that even really become more important in the agentic AI regime. And we do understand that recently the government of UAE has announced their digital transformation, and according to that one, they are going to have more than 50% of their government services through AI agentic within the 2 years process. So model is the is really a thing, or like the structure which provides the AI decision. So the transparency of model is really very important, and the EU AI Act clarify it in different aspects regarding the responsibility of the deployer, and of course the developer and the executor, and the like all these end users. And this also become very important for the IT companies. So like for example, the IT companies working in Pakistan at this point of time. So they are making AI models which are being used in EU, the 27 countries of the EU. So according to the EU AI Act of 2024, even if that data is being used or their AI models are being used in the EU, so the responsibility or the liability will also come on the developers which are sitting in India, Pakistan, or other parts of the world, and they may go through the compliance, network, and they may face some kind of penalties if they are not providing all kind of transparency in the AI modeling system. So this is really something very important. I can just give you a very simple example. If you buy a medicine from a company, so on each medicine product, normally you see there is a description, and which mentions that what kind of products are there used, what is their capacity, what is their expiry date, production date, limitations, etc. The children should not use it. Overage people, the people with high blood pressure and diabetic should not use it. So the all description is most of the time given on the medicines. So this is just for the understanding. In the model transparency, the developers, even at the beginning, they should have this kind of transparency in their mind. And even sometime the AI policy advisors are just going to emphasize, even the legislators are saying, and the AI governance experts are of the view that the compliance should be embedded into the AI system at the designing stage, not at the stage when the AI model or AI system is going to be practically implemented in the market, because reversal of those decisions can be really very much catastrophic for the people and the other organizations which are using for that one. So the model transparency, model purpose and logic, it should be very much clear that what is the purpose of that model. If that model is being used in the health sector or in the finance sector, in the administration of justice, each data, it's not a copy paste policy. Each data cannot be a good for the all the systems across the world. So the purpose of the data, or the purpose where that AI systems are being used, it should be very clear, and they should understand what are the requirements of the consumers or the client, and what is the logic behind it. And based on that, even we can classify either this AI model system should be considered as a high risk AI system or a low risk AI system, which are categorized in Article 5 of the EU AI Act I just talked about. And input output relationship, this is really something very important, very important. As I mentioned, garbage in, garbage out. If you're putting a bat data, you are having a bad data as well, or bad AI decisions, which can have impact on all the institutions relating to finance, health, administration of justice, legal, etc. So the input and output of the data should always be, there should be a coherence. The data which is given in the input or in the beginning stage, it should have the same output at the end of the time. And again, here the technical documentation come forward, and the auditors should have the clear, picture of all these systems and all these documentation, that what was the input in the beginning and what was the output at the end of the system. That should be taken into consideration, and this is something very important to have a model transparency. Limitations and assumptions. Like the pharmaceutical companies, when they are making the medicine, they do understand, and they must understand what are the limitations of their, what are the strength of their medicine, what are the weaknesses of their medicines, what are the assumption, what can be the possible or the potential risks. So all these things should be taken into consideration by the AI developers, and there should be a technical, documentation, which of course will be used by the auditors for their audit reports, which is always based on the evidence, and for the compliance people to understand. And of course, if tomorrow the AI system is just having a very bad drifting, or it's not going to have an excellent, system, so then there should be, through this, limitations and assumption perception, the responsibility can be categorized, and the people can become accountable, that who are the real people accountable, either the designers, the developers, the deployer, or the people who are executing the AI systems in the different organizations or the companies. The other thing is relating to user awareness. This is really something very important, especially the boards and other organizations. They are also under the obligations that the end users should have the awareness. I would just like to quote here the recommendation and guidelines given by the UAE Central Bank recently on 22nd of February 26 to the licensed financial institutions in UAE. And according to that, the banks or institutions in UAE are under the obligation to, provide a kind of, such an explanation that the user should be aware. They should know that they are interacting with AI, not the people, and kind of data is being used in the AI system. What were the challenges, or etc. So if the or the user had these kind of questions, the board of the company is under the responsibility to make such a detailed, audit trail and legal and the technical documentation, that each and every should be substantiated by the previous step. So user awareness is really very important for a great model transparency. So why it matters? Improve trust, auditability, and regulatory compliance. So these things are really very important. Without trust and auditability, there's nothing. So all these things comes from the model which we can use at the very which that use at the very the system, or for this whole entire AI cycle. The EU AI Act of 13 and the GDPR Act 5.1 and Article 22 of the GDPR talk about all this situation, which I just explained right now. So this was about the model transparency. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, so now we are coming on a very important aspect called bias monitoring in AI governance principle or the policy. So the bias monitoring is something extremely important, and we need to understand what is bias. Bias is really something which is discriminatory, which is against the principle of fairness or justice. That is called bias. Humans are naturally so that AI always gave its decisions based on the data. So there is a huge requirement from a compliance perspective and from the regulatory perspective, that the data given should be free of any bias or should be free of any discrimination. And if the data is unbiased and fair, only then we can expect the fair outcomes. If the data is not fair, we cannot expect any right decisions from the AI systems. So its key risks are there. Discriminatory outputs, like even, for example, a lot of examples can be given that, for example, in one of the case, the data sets of HR company were trained for some organizations, and then they were used. So then most of the job letters were to the male candidate instead of the female candidates. Then it came into the consideration that the legal provisions relating to the maternity leave, other leaves which are applicable for the women only. So the data could not actually identify that, and they actually amalgamated all the confusions into the systems, and the end decisions which were given by the AI, which was not against the females, but it was more favoring for the male. So that is really something very important that should be taken into consideration. So data driven bias, unfair decision making. So unfair decision, this is the main example. The unfair decisions should be based on unfair data or biased data. So the data biasness is really something very important, and EU AI 9 and 10 and the GDPR Act of 5 and 22, they emphasize on this one, that the data should always be clean, uh, error free, and it should always go through some kind of fair testing, or without testing you cannot use the data. And that is really the principles behind the AI governance systems. So now we are going to discuss about security controls, protecting AI system and security layers. So, and I mean, security control is really something very important, and we understand that the cyber security, and due to the cyber attacks, there are multi millions and billions dollars are happening every year, and even the governments or the banks or the financial institutions are making a lot of precautions to use the best security systems for the AI system. Data protection measures should always be into consideration, and that can only be possible through the data security system. And there should be the clear governing policies before the board to understand and to provide the best security protections to the data system. Model robustness, cybersecurity safeguards is really important, as we discussed about that. And the key principle is that security system ensure trustworthy AI. So if you want that, they should public trust, the trust of the consumers, that's the most important, and the shareholders, the board directors, and of course the public at large. The most important thing is that the data should be secure. And even the GDPR, as I mentioned, talk exclusively about the data security and data protection. So this principle should be taken into consideration, and auditors should understand this one at the time of before the AI audits, that what were the security measures or security principles which were taken into consideration by the organization. What was the policy of the data governance within the organization, and what was their legal and technical documentation, and if there were some data violation policy, data violation incidents, so how those incidents into consideration and how those problems were resolved. And there should be a clear documentation for all this one, and the auditor are under their compliance obligations and ethical obligations to have this one, and the CEO and the other organizations, authorities, they are under the obligations to maintain the technical documentations through their AI inventory and all the AI in the beginning. So for having a trustworthy AI, the most important thing is about the security of the data. So other thing which we are just going to talk about, the auditability. So we do understand that the auditability, explainability, transparency, accountability, all these things comes under the same purview, and its basic principle is regarding the clearness of everything, the documentation, the policies, the role of the concerned person, human oversight, everything should be very clear and very up to the mark for the auditors to take the audit trials and make the right audit decisions. So the traceability and review of the AI decisions and the requirements lodging of AI activities. So all the AI activities should be logged in, and there should be a clear AI inventory for the trial auditability or auditable trial system. So the logging system should be up to the mark. Traceable outputs mean whatever the outputs are given into the data or into the log system, they should be traceable, and can only come through the proper documentation, through the technical and legal and compliance documentation. So there should be a complete trail for all these things to have a traceable outputs. Version control, evidence of compliance. This is also something very important, that the auditor should be shown the evidence of compliance regarding even the international compliance, EU AI Act or the GDPR or the local compliance requirements. So there must be the AI governance principle which should cover all these things into the consideration, and to the AI governance policies with the relevant legal and technical documentation which should be presented to the auditors at any point of the time during AI audit or etc. And that can be that's really very important. In the normal audit, the numbers are most important. In the AI audits, the data is very much important. So the all data relating to compliance, traceability, explainability, consumer protection, etc., that should be kept into a proper consideration and in a responsible trial system so that the auditors can use them. And if it cannot be audited, it cannot be trusted. Means there is a normal concept of black box. There are some AI systems which are based on the principle of black box. You cannot ask any question. They are not responsible. But of course, now we have to come out of this situation. If a system cannot be explained, it cannot be audited. I repeat it again. If a system cannot be explained, it cannot be audited. If it cannot be audited, there is transparency. And if there's no transparency, then it means everything is collapsed. And so, in this connection, in auditability, all these systems are extremely important and they must be taken into consideration for the best AI governance policy. Explainability. Explainability is another thing which is extremely important. And as per the recent, regulation, the guidelines given by the Central Bank of UAE, and of course, within the different provisions of the EU AI Act, especially Article 13 and Article 14, they talk about the explainability. Means each and every system or the AI decisions must be explainable. And if it is explainable, it will win the trust of the people. If it is explainable, it will help the auditors to make a right audit reports. So the explainability is very important. And the consumers should always be they should always have the right to understand that they are dealing with the AI systems, not the other systems or etc. This is something that needs to be taken into consideration regarding explainability. No explainability, no audit. No audit, nothing is there. So explainability is mentioned in Article 13 and 14 of the EU AI Act. So explainable AI is defensible AI. If you cannot explain your AI or your AI systems or the decisions given by the AI modules, which should be based on the technical education, technical documentation and related things, then they are not defensible. So if they are not then defensible, then of course, who will be responsible? Of course, again, explainability means that, and that also relates to the accountability, that there should be a one person within the organization. Previously, it used to be, management officers or data governance specialists, but now the organizations are being emphasized to have the officers or AI security officers. So they should understand all these things very clearly, and they should work in connection with the AI governance committee and the compliance committee or the committee of the contents and etc. And then the decision should come in such a documented form that should be explainable. And if tomorrow the case goes to the courts and etc., there should be evidence. And of course, the auditors always based on the documentations and the related things. So now we are just going to talk about compliance alignment. This is really, again, a very important thing. Compliance is not only the international compliance, international compliance is not only to the data protections or data security, but it also relates to the responsibility of the developers, the executors, the end users, and etc. So actually a whole chain, or you may say call it as like a supply chain, and the compliance alignment should be there when the systems are being built, keeping in mind the EU AI Act. The compliance should be embedded. The unbiased data should be embedded. It should be embedded within the system at the time of the designing. This is something very important. Sometime organizations are taking misconception that are only important when the system is actually executed. That is absolutely wrong, and these decisions can be irreversible, and it can put the trust or credibility of the organizations at question. So compliance alignment is very important. Risk management framework, as mentioned in the discussion, there should be the risk management framework. The risk can only be managed if it is classified. So it should the high risk AI, or it should be the low risk AI, as I discussed in the beginning. It should be classified in the beginning, and it should help the auditors to understand the exact category of the AI system so that they can move forward for the best auditability and for the best audit reports. Data governance and quality is again very much important part of the compliance alignment. Data governance and quality, as I mentioned, the GDPR is very much important. In Dubai, there is a data protection law, and the DIFC, DFSA have their own data protection law. At the global level, there is the GDPR, and some principles are also mentioned in OECD principles or the UNESCO principles that should be taken into consideration. And all the regulations and the compliance requirements relating to data governance, data security should be taken into consideration through all legal and technical education, and the data quality of the data should always be at the highest level. Higher quality of data, higher quality of AI decisions. Bad quality of data, bad quality of AI decisions. So the AI system, the data is of an extreme importance. Ethical AI principles. The problem is that the technology is evolving in like months. The regulations are evolving in years, and the governance is evolving in decades. The real question is that all the policymakers are capable of this gap. This is really something very much important that needs into consideration. So even if the regulations are not there, for example, and even the EU AI Act, most important principles relating to high risk classification are going to be implemented on 2nd of August 2026, because EU AI Act is going to be implemented in 3 different phases from 2024 to 2027. So even then, again, the system is very much, the technology is moving with the speed of light, and this is really a problem which is like, for example, the US system is based on innovation and market dynamics. The EU system is based on right approach or regulations most of the time, and the Chinese model is based on state controlled mechanism. So we need to have such a system which some ethical principles, and those ethical principles or guidelines are given by the NIST, RMF frameworks, and of course by OECD principles, which in detail at stage. So they should be taken into consideration, and only the AI principles can make some kind of justice between the highest speed of AI system and the protection of the people that can be covered through the ethical principles which are applicable in the human civilization since centuries and since thousands of years. So the legal compliance should be there, the legal document should be there. It help you locally from the legal compliance perspective, and internationally, as I mentioned, if there is no legal compliance, there is a penalty of 35 million euro, or 7% revenue of the relevant company. So this is really something very astonishing and very alarming, which should be taken into consideration. So compliance alignment is really very much important, and a lot of things can be talked about that, like the freedom of speech or freedom of thinking. A lot of regulations are being made in the world that think that due to the consecutive use of AI, the problems with natural human thinking or critical thinking process has gone under shambles or under clouds. So that should be taken into consideration. So at any aspect, the compliance alignment is extremely important, and the boards of the companies should always work with the AI governance committee, compliance committees, legal professionals, and auditors to make everything into the alignment, and every report should be there that should be presented before the public at large on behalf of their company. So the key issue is compliance must be built into AI system. Yeah, this is again a very important thing, that sometime the people are confused that the compliance requirements are only applicable when the AI system is being executed, or even after the execution of the AI system. This is a wrong. The wisdom or the AI best practices mention that the compliance must be built into the AI system. At the designing stage, it should be mentioned, and the EU AI Act, different legal provisions talk a lot about it. And this is also mentioned in Article 9 and 10 of the EU AI Act, and GDPR Article 5, 1 and A. This is all about the compliance alignment, which should be at each and every stage of the AI governance policy. So now we are going to talk about what is the role of monitoring and drift detection in AI governance. This is something again very much important, ensuring continuous accuracy. So when we buy a car, it is working very well, but it's really not possible that it will be working well all the time. So monitoring and drift detection is really something very important.
Can IT team confirm that this is the glitch? I think we have a glitch, and Mr. Shakil, he has lost the connection. As the connection is being restored, we'll move with the session again. Thank you. IT support team, please confirm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are back, sir.
Okay. I don't know what happened to. Again, I think it is a drifting. I was talking about the drifting of AI models or AI systems. So probably sometime our computers may also drift. So the same thing happens most of the time, like in AI systems. So yeah, I was just talking about the monitoring and drifting detection, and the performance tracking should always be there, and the AI system should be tracked all the time, and continuous report should be there, model drift detection, and if you think at some point of the time the model is not working well, or it is actually giving the result which are against the input or the data, so it means there are red flags that should be considered, and the team should come forward to resolve this issue. So there should be the revalidation cycles. All the cycles should be interconnected throughout the AI recycling process. Accuracy checks should be there. It should be made by the concerned, cybersecurity guy or the other concerned persons within the organization to understand that the AI system is working well. There is no drifting or any kind of that kind of stuff. So Article 9 and Article 61, especially of EU AI Act, talk about that this is not only the AI which should be monitored at the time of the inception. It should be monitored and it should be continuously reviewed throughout its AI life cycle process. So this is model degrade over time. So this is something which we need into, which we should keep into consideration.
Skills, I just want to highlight that we have few questions also. So move your presentation in this way that we can have the questions from the audience and you can reply over that. So please continue.
Yeah. Should I talk? Okay. So yeah, the next thing is incident reporting, incident response. This is again a very important aspect of AI cycle or AI governance principle. Managing AI failures, response frameworks, detection. So if there is any problem at any point of AI cycling that comes into the consideration of the AI team or the AI officer or the AI governance committee, that should be immediately detected. And after detection, it should be immediately escalated. It can be escalated either to the board or to the concerned persons within the organization. And if it is of the different nature, it should be communicated to the data protection authority of the concerned country, of the concerned organization, and it should also be documented, and there should be a clean documentation that what was the incident, when it was reported, what was the nature of the incident, and what was the dynamics of the incident, to which authority it was reported, and what were the actions which were taken by the concerned authority, even at the organization level or at the public level, or if there is any data protection authority. So the response should be prompt and its action should be taken promptly, and the documentation should be prepared very carefully for the auditors to make their audits in the time to come. So this is something extremely important that needs to be taken into the AI governance principle. And of course, the reporting should be there to the concerned person, and there should be a documentation, and that documentation should be kept into the records for the future references. The EU AI Act Article 73 clarify about this situation, and the GDPR Article 33 and 34 talk about the incident response, because if it relates to the violation of protection of data of the private people or the organizational people, or even it can be the national security, so it can be really disastrous on AI decisions. So these things should be taken into consideration very precisely. Access and permission control, controlling AI usage control. So access and permission control is like the same thing, like the continuous monitoring, and monitoring should always be there. The reporting should be there. The legal and technical documentation should be there, and it should be reported like the internal compliance report or audit reports. And there should be the AI register or AI performance even used to be required. It should be built specifically within the organization, and access and permission control means only the authorized persons should be allowed to make the use of AI systems. The non-authorized persons cannot do it, as it can create a lot of other problems. So the limit access to reduce its risk exposure. That's the basic principle. Trust metrics. So I'm just going to close my discussion now. I think it's a lot of time, and I think I appreciate the patience of the people. So we are just going to talk about the trust matrix in the AI governance principle. This is my last, probably the topic, measuring confidence in AI. So how we can measure that the AI is working well. What are the parameters? What are the diagnostic structure? It should be kept into consideration. The first thing is relating to the accuracy, how the systems were, the AI systems were accurate, their decisions were accurate. There must be some system to understand the accuracy and the principle of improvement that is always there. Bias level should always be taken into consideration, and even if required, based on the high risk system or the low risk classification system within AI, the bias level should be determined, and there should be the different classification of the bias level, and there should be a documentation. Explainability, I have talked a lot about explainability. It is like the living cycle of AI system. Without explainability, even the auditors cannot provide any audit report. So the explainability from the designing process till the execution of the system and the AI decisions is always extremely important. Incident frequency, we need to understand that if the incident are happening quite frequently with alerts or the red flags, then it should also be considered, and there may be a need of the systems to be checked into for the better improvement. Audit results, what are the audit results, and compliance status of the I have already talked about like audit trail and compliance status. So if all these things are actually in one loop, and then only the trust of the people would be there in the AI system, and the AI decisions can protect the interests of the people at the large. So I'm just winding up my discussion with this note, and yeah, I mean, if there are any discussions or questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Shaisa. Shaisa, one request to your good self is that if you share the slides with our participants, because members, they are being asking the slides. It was a very detailed presentation with all the areas you have covered, but the slides, it will become very helpful for all of them so that they can correlate this with their professional working also. So we have the few questions, sir. First question is from our member Shahid Iqbal. What is the current legal and regulatory status of AI law in Pakistan? So he wants that any laws up. We have the data protection enactments with us, but specifically any regulatory laws for the AI in Pakistan, sir?
So at the national level, I do understand there is no specifically AI law. And this is not only for Pakistan, even some other countries like India, they are still struggling with the AI law. Pakistan has got its AI policy in July 2025, but that's a policy. And the other regulations like PTA and the SPP, they have some regulations which can be covered. But normally, as of now, it's a hybrid approach. So the yardsticks are there: OECD legal principles, ethical principles, UNESCO principles, EU AI Act, GDPR of EU. So these are the principles which are applicable. I think Pakistan will be having a complete AI law very soon. We do expect.
With the same question continuation that we are there, the prompting, there's a data which the user they have been sharing with the AI. So if there is a misuse of data, which platforms, which authorities, or what are legal remedies being available? So I think so that question already answered. Still, we only have the policies. So once the policies are being converted into the regulations, so automatically that will be very specific. And currently, the data protection enactments and the other old laws, we can only take the use of that specific regulations. So your take over this, please.
Yeah, I think that's right. The regulations are always there in Pakistan, and the cybersecurity regulations are there. FIA is doing a great work, and based on the, nature of the, data violation or privacy concern, the relevant authorities can take the action. So I think it should not be the specific only for each case. It can be applicable from a case to case basis. And I think the legal department teams of the companies, they must be in a better positions to take into the relevant authorities.
Okay, so one of our member, Mohammed Yusuf, he asked that using the AI, how we can use the AI be used in the context of financial statement audit and how. So it's more towards the methodology of using the AI rather than the risk and its applicability and data. So they are asking which areas of financial statements audit they can use the AI and how they can apply that, sir.
Well, I would just like to ask this question from you or from some of your members also. I do understand that this is really a problem that even sometimes the chat GPT is very extensively been used by even the audit professionals and etc. So they are using the AI, but of course there are a lot of AI models and AI systems based on the company policies, what kind of AI systems they are using, and again based on their policies and their requirements and their challenges, what should be the model of the AI system they must be using. So, if you can guide me or some of your members, like in ICAP, that what kind of AI models actually you are using at this point of time. Because I understand there are some organizations which are not formally using it at an extensive level as of now. But due to keeping in mind competitive edge, a lot of audit firms will be coming forward. So, what is the overall practice?
So, for example, just I want to quote one thing that, for example, in the Saudi Arabia, there is some requirements for the fintech and towards the regulatory bodies there. They have to develop the AML policies. They have to develop the cybersecurity policies. They have to work for the fraud deterrent methodologies. So many times it happens that they have the policies, and to identify the gap analysis, we take the help of the AI, various type of the platforms, and it identify the weak areas where further working is to be required. And sometimes we have the gap analysis reports, and it helps us that what are the measures we have to chip in. Again, it's more towards the prompting, and never the answer is being correct. At the end of the day, being a professional, we have to conclude it, but much of the laborious work it can resolve for us. This is being specifically one example. Similarly, many people they are being using, just adding one thing, that in one days it was being that was a concept that the Word, Excel, and all these access the Microsoft Office, it was the IT peoples who have to use. And at that time, the people they used to say, no, this is going to be used by the professionals, and you will tell us how you want to use it. We are just telling you the capabilities of these tools. So today, what we are being having this statement that the AI is a technology, AI is the efficiency, AI is something with the data which is being available, which we can use for our own purpose. How we want to use it, that is going to be decided by the professionals themselves. So learn the art, learn how we can utilize this data, what is the ethical use of data. And once we are being aware of this, a day is coming very soon where people they start utilizing it for the benefit of their business. Back to you, sir. Your comments.
No, I think, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's just go through this cycle, and so the people are using different prompt to, I mean, cover the gap analysis and etc. I truly, it's perfect. But I think, yeah, there are different AI systems which are being used by the different organizations, even at a higher level. Again, it's based on the AI model and AI system and the AI requirement. But I think the most important thing as of now is that the people should understand the AI governance policies relating to transparency, explainability, human right, human centric, incident reporting, all things I explained today. So that should be taken into consideration for having the responsible and ethical AI outputs.
So we have a question from one of the students. It's always nice to have the question from the students because they are going to work in future for us, and we have high hopes from the CAF students and the upcoming chartered accountants. He's asking, so please guide us some specific skill set or short courses, which from the day one we start working so that we can use the AI for the fintech, for the auditing, for finance, so and automation. So any specific areas or any specific tools you want to specify that the students for the upcoming next 1 year or next 2 years they should work on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think at this point of time, the students are actually rushing towards AI courses or like, but you know, one thing is clear. I come from a background. I'm a lawyer, so probably not be in a very better positions to reply that what kind of exact AI courses should be completed by the students. But one thing I can clarify, there are some courses for AI governance. There are a lot of courses by international organizations or institutions which are providing on AI governance. So they are extremely important at the top of other courses which may be, you know, decided by the concerned authorities or the technical people. The question is that like you are interviewing a driver, okay, you will not ask only, okay, you can run a car by 200 kilometer per hour, okay, you are appointed. But you will ask him, okay, if the car is in 200 kilometers per hour, what are the guardrails you will use? What should be the strategy? If there is not wheel alignment, the wheel is actually dispatched from the system or the rim, what are the precautionary measures? What should you do before keeping the car on the road? And many other things. And these things come from for the AI governance. So what I would say, that students, whatever the course they should complete, they should talk to their concerned people, technical guys. But at the end of the time, if they have any questions relating to AI governance, legal, regulatory, and ethical perspective, then I think they should do it online. There are many courses, they can complete it.
Thank you. There are many other questions, but I think so that because of limitation of time and much of the areas are being well answered by our speaker, Shakil Saab. It is being very much clear that this session is not how to use the AI. This session is how to use AI, but keeping in your mind the legal aspects, the risk, and the governance, all that detailing is happening. Few questions they are towards the law in Pakistan. So Shakil Saab well explained that policies are being placed and these policies are going to convert into the regulation. And then, yes, the proper regulations we are going to have in the coming days. At the same time, certain question is use of the AI in the internal audit and in all those stuff. So the answer is being very clear that that is again we have to define that how we want to use it. It has the capacity, it has the capability. Thanks a lot, sir, for your detailed description, and we really honor your dedicated time for the professionals. To conclude the session, I request Mr. Ahmed Suleiman. Ahmed Suleiman is a chartered accountant. He's a partner with Zaijmin and Company. Ahmed Suleiman, he is chairing the CPD Faisalabad. Ahmed Suleiman, he is a PIFA member also, and he's working as a director in corporate general solutions, which is working in the UAE and abroad for various type of the accounting and the booking of assignments. So the virtual podium, I'm handing over to Ahmed Suleiman for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, DTM, Mohammad Zishan Abid. Sorry, I called you DTM. Okay. Mr. Zishan Abid. Thank you very much, all the participants. Alhamdulillah, I'm seeing that more than 130 participants have joined this webinar. This webinar has been organized by NRC and ICAP Committee, Faisalabad, being chairman of the CPD committee. It's our first CPD event, and Alhamdulillah, people has liked it, Alhamdulillah, and they have joined. They have shown their interest on this topic. And thank you very much, Shakil Mia Saab, for your time and for your valuable time and sharing your thoughts. I think you have tried to summarize a very detailed topic with a lot of topics you have covered in 1.5 hours. I think it's really very difficult. You talked about policy framework, accountability, risk classification, human oversights, data governance, model transparency, bias, monitoring, auditability, explainability, compliance, monitoring incident, and so on. So you have tried to cover, I think it's a very detailed topic and a very detailed discussion is required, and you will definitely agree with me. And thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing valuable thoughts. AI governance, in my opinion, is a global issue. Although we are far behind in Pakistan and other developing countries, you have shared your experience of UAE. Definitely, we can get an idea of what regulations should be in Pakistan and other developing countries. And the European unions and other developed countries are following these regulations and laws. So you have given us a very brief idea. After that, I would like to thank today's MOC, Mohammad Zishan Abid, for moderating the session very well, for giving a valuable time. After that, I would like to thank Chairman NRC, Mr. Anil Peter, for his support, the CPT convener, NRC, Mr. Junaid Subhani, FCA. I would like to thank ICAP team, Madam Nazia, Mr. Mohammad, Mr. Shahbaz Fareed from ICAP Faisalabad for their support and making this webinar a success story. And thanks to all of you. Inshallah, we would love to organize webinars and seminars through the platform ICAP CPT committee in future. Over to you, Embassy.
Thank you, Ahmed Sulman. Once again, I thank our speaker, Shakil Emia. Also, we thank the NRC for holding this valuable session. Special thanks to the NRC chair, Mr. Anil Peter, and thanks to the CPT chair, Faisalabad. So that's the end from our side. Members, they can share their questions to the email. We'll try to share the presentation in the form of a slides once it is being available from the speaker, Mr. Shakil Emia. So that's end for today. Have a nice day. Enjoy yourself. Thank you.